permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you. Never lose hope.
Here, Fred shouts.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, Fred!
Welcome to episode 460 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, August 15th, 2024, in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northrend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Kresh, Beef Squatch, David P., Walu, Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Grizzly Bear, Tile Knife, and SJ5 Goku. And by our patrons of the week, Fade to Black and Craig Burnt. You can go to patreon.com/coinconcede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, early access to new episodes, one-on-one coaching sessions, and of course, help the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So, Life and Ladder. Mine is going to be tied a little bit to Megasa's because we were in the same place. So, had a great time. It was, a short trip, but very nice. And it is fun to get to, hang out and travel. I have not gotten to travel very much since Leah was born. I think the last time was BlizzCon. Besides, places I can drive to, right? And I know a lot of people, hate airports and flying, but I really kind of enjoy the experience. Now, part of that is because I am small enough to enjoy the experience. But yeah, it was really nice to travel and meet Megasa's friends, who are pretty cool. I had a good time. And play one of the board games that is part of my far too many number that I got because it looked great and have never played before. So
It was cute. It was called Chai, and it was your tea merchants. It had these cute little cups, and Edel destroyed us, which surprised no one. My excuse for why I got 4th out of 5 was that I was also putting together lunch at the same time, so
it's true.
That's what we're gonna
In the game or outside of the game?
Both. But trying to host. But yeah, everyone worked together quite well. It was making me wish people lived closer together. Yeah, that's always hard. We also worked very well. We did an escape room, of course, because I can't have a non-nerdy bachelorette party. That would just not be acceptable. So, and we finished it within the challenge time, which apparently only 13% of groups do, and they're usually larger than ours. Also, we didn't argue or fight with each other once. Nobody did. Which the person also told us is not usual. So there was one point where Edel was so focused in on this sort of puzzle.
Yeah, I was so confused.
That this new room opened up, and I had to be Edel, stop what you're doing.
I mean,
Get in the wall.
I get that a new room opened up, but it also was not helpful for me to be there. It was cool.
Look, I have played enough Diablo to know that you don't go into the next room until you've completely examined the existing room that you're in.
Yeah, well, keeping the competitive integrity, we all went in because there was a point where you had to go in this wardrobe, and then a new room opened up, and my friend who had immediately volunteered to go shut herself in the wardrobe just instantly, which is very her, went this is so effing cool. So then we all, except Edel, are well, we have to see this thing, even though we've been told this was a one-person thing, and there really was only a need for one person to do it at this point. But the rest of us are like, we want to see what's so effing cool. Like, we're going to go in. It was really nice production values, actually. It was very, like, well organized. There was lots and lots of different puzzles, but they were organized, and so it was easy to, like, delegate. And you weren't spending a lot of time wondering what piece goes with what puzzle, so you could actually just focus on the puzzles, which was nice. So, and then we went to a fancy vegetarian restaurant. One of my friends is vegetarian, and I don't think any of the rest of us felt at all deprived.
No, it was delightful.
Really good.
Very tasty.
And then we found the bar right next door was, like, very nerdy. It had, like, an orrery when you first walk in. It had, it sold, like, dice cups. It had, like, engineering diagrams on the wall.
It walked a fine line.
On brand.
Yeah. It walked a fine line between nerdy and, like, secret society-y, except not secret, just the vibe of one. It's run something by a group called the Long Now Foundation, that they strive to take the long view, and so they'll write dates as, like, oh, it's not the year 2024, it's 02024, right? To think about human history through the scope of, like, the next 10,000 years. So they have this thing called a Rosetta Disk that has, like, 150 languages and all their grammatical structure and everything to make sure they're not, like, lost. And you don't need a computer or anything to run it. You just need to be able to magnify 500x.
Which is probably easier to imagine that a future would have than that they have compatible software. We don't have compatible software from, like, 5 years ago on half of the things. So
I still have my Commodore 64 in the basement, so.
But apart from that stuff, which I just remembered, there was, like, a book there that I wanted to get for myself that seemed fun.
Is it a bookstore too?
Not exactly. Like, they had a few books that they were promoting that they actually were selling, but others were just kind of there for ambiance. And I don't know, if you're interested, you can go find it and purchase it. There was one that I was like, oh, I'm going to have to look that up and buy it.
It was Ryan North. I can't remember what the title of it is, but it's like a guide to time travelers. Like, if you got stuck in the past, how do you recreate modern technology and pretend you came up with it? For
my anime fans out there, it's basically how to be Dr. Stone. There's an anime called Dr. Stone where everyone gets petrified and he depetrifies in the future and has to reinvent technology from scratch. And it's like, how do you do that? How do you reinvent technology from scratch? It was very cool. And we did play some Hearthstone, like, as most of what we played, we described right on last week's episode. So have played since then. It both feels like there was kind of a lot going on and things have sort of narrowed, but we'll get into that later.
That's fair.
Well, I definitely spent the weekend mostly focused on bachelorette party things and had brunch the next day for my birthday, which was on Sunday. With my twin brother, birthdays are always a joint enterprise. There is no day where someone gets me a present where I don't also get someone else a present, except my wedding, I suppose. Just coming up. But I'm organizing it. So I've been doing a lot of that. I'm trying to write like ceremony and vows, because we're not using a typical ceremonies script. We didn't want anything religious personally. So that's a lot of writing things. I found a poem that I thought worked really well. And then I was making suggestions we should say this and that. And my partner's like, I want to get through this without completely sobbing. I'm like, we're both going to be crying. I'm going to do my eye makeup in such a way that I'm expecting to be crying. This is just who we are and how this works. But we're meeting in the middle in terms of length of vows. Cause I was like, we can tell a whole story. And he's like, we can have 3 sentences. So we're it's one paragraph where we're meeting. Cause we didn't want to be I have a whole page and he has 3 sentences. Would seem a little lopsided. And then in terms of Hearthstone, I I'm still doing, I think I was doing this on the show last week for Zarimi Priest, the 2 Mixologists, 2 Carry-On Grubs. I had said maybe I'm going to cut Ziliax. Quickly after the show decided, no, keep in Ziliax. Ziliax is
still good.
Is worse. It is worse, for this deck at least, but it's still good. Turns out you can still pay a mana or 2 for this effect, and it's fine. So, same list that I was running before. I had some pretty crazy sort of Zarimi versus Overheal games. I haven't had the brain power anytime this week to feel like I could pull up Overheal.
That deck seems like Galaxy Brain every time I try to play it. So I don't blame you for, feeling intimidated by it, because I've tried it and it's like, I understand what this is trying to do, but I have no idea how you get all this to come together in a reasonable amount of time. So.
In one of the Zarimi vs. Overheal games that I had, it was just like an Amanthul duel. So I outweighted my opponent. They played Amanthul first, so then I poofed their Amanthul, but then they had gotten a copy, so then they poofed my Amanthul. But I had a copy of mine, so I poofed their second one. And finally they played a third one, and we're like, haha, I have the final Amanthul. But little did they know I had gotten Tear off of my Amanthul, and there's only one 3-attack priest minion in my deck to resurrect, which is Amanthul. So that won me the game. I think they wow emoted me or something. Just
I
really?
Probably would too. Yeah.
And then I had another one where I completely lost the Amanthul battle. They had 4 or 5, at least, during the course of the game. But here's the thing: Amanthul doesn't attack for 3 turns. So I was just sitting there waiting for my Zarimi, and I had a Gorgonzola cheese, or Gorgonzormu cheese, that was at 10 for several turns, while my Zarimi and my Scale Replica were buried at the very bottom of my deck. But they couldn't kill me because their board was full of Amanthuls that don't attack. And I had managed to poof their Hedonis, very important, so they had no more Hedonis. They couldn't kill me that way. Just waiting for me to not find my Zarimi, and I was letting them fill up their board with Amanthuls. That is a thing that I had noticed occasionally from the other side as a priest player, is that Amanthul is extremely powerful, but does not kill your opponent by itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you have to just not panic. It's kind of like sometimes if you're facing an Overheal and they Crimson Clergy, you basically, there's no time ever that you don't want to kill that thing unless you have lethal. But if you're facing a Zarimi Priest and they have a Crimson Clergy and they've already used their healing cards on it, they only have 4. You can just let it live if they've already had the crazy funnel cake, dreamboat turn. It's unfortunate that happened. Now it's kind of done. They can hero power it. That's not really what they want to do. So you don't have to pull out all the stops. And then I played some Buttons Death Knight today and a little bit yesterday, which we'll talk about later. And I played some Incendious Shaman at one point because I was like, maybe this will work better now. It didn't work very well for me. The only time I saw it work really well was for my opponent earlier today, who had Coin Shudder on 5, Incendious on 6, 2 Zappers, Mini Shudder, Gaslight on 7. And I was like, why does that never happen to me?
If you can get that to happen, the deck works great every time. But unfortunately, it's not easy to get that to happen.
It was never quite fast enough. So...
Well, how about you, Wiccan?
I didn't have quite the excitement that you both did, but my daughter was in the summer play this weekend, so we went to that, and we had a house guest most of the weekend. Because Maureen's friend came up to see her, which meant that I went to the game shop on my own on Sunday, because normally she drives me. That's her driving practice, is to drive me over. She drives me over to the game shop on Sundays, and I play Commander, and then she drives me back, and she'll just get her laptop, and I try to kind of not overstay my welcome there, but since she wasn't with me, I played a little bit longer than normal. And my current favorite deck is a landfall deck, so it does things when you play lands, and it does land sacrifice things. And so I had one game that I was playing where there's a card called Scoot Swarm that, you can, Edel knows where this is going. So
I thought it was Scoot Mob.
No, Scoot Swarm. So if you have a certain number of lands, it makes a copy of itself every time you play a land. And my deck likes to sacrifice lands and then play a card. I have a bunch of cards that will just return all lands from the graveyard onto the battlefield all at once.
Mhm.
So, and then they do other things. So I ended up with 2048 1111 insects on my board. and the game did end after that. So I think I killed 2 people. That's heard. And then the third one was like, yeah, you're not going to kill me, but I'm not coming back from this. So it's fine. We can just end the game here. So
That's where your CS knowing your binary numbers really comes in handy.
Well, no, so actually I was starting to do the math and somebody else at the table was like, no, I know it. It's fine. I know how to, I know what that exponent is. We're good. I mean, it was basically like any 4-digit number was fine at that point. It doesn't really matter what, like, once you're above like 20 or 30, it's pretty much like that's enough.
It's just an order of magnitude thing at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just fun. It's just a funny story after you get beyond like double digits. So, but I did get myself to Legend in Hearthstone, even with despite the 10x climb. On Friday, it was either Friday. It must've been Saturday. Saturday or Sunday, it doesn't matter. I was looking through Donkey's site and saw and like, okay, fine. So Tempo Druid's a thing again. The old style Tempo Druid with with all the ramp and with Doomkins and whatever. I'm like, okay, let's see if this is still good. Yeah.
Yep.
I was 9-1 up to Legend with it. So that was pretty good. I kind of ran into a bit of a wall because people were starting to target it a little bit more by the next day, like on my stream. But yeah, it just felt like nothing could beat it the first day. And then people started adapting to it. Though I did on stream run into a Reno Druid. And I want to stress that this was a Reno Druid. Because they started with the whatever the 1-cost spell is that summons a 2-drop. They got like a Direwolf Alpha off of it. And then they proceeded to go Coin Splish Splash Whelp into New Heights, into Doomkin, into Crystal Caverns, into the Thrice card, into Reno. And in a singleton deck, just had all that in order. And Doomkinned me before I was even able to find ramp. Or maybe I found some ramp, but it was not enough.
Like
and that was
12 mana to 4 mana or something nonsense like that.
Like this is not okay. Like why? Like I'm glad that there's this deck building restriction that's forcing you to introduce variance into your deck that's making it less consistent and preventing those kinds of things from happening. But sometimes that happens. I did, but I also played the Death Knight a little bit more over the last couple of days. We'll talk about that in Decksplanations. But we've got a lot to talk about because we've got a new patch on the way, and we've got a Masters tour this weekend, and we still have some Decksplanations to do. So I think we should move over to that.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So we got the patch notes for patch 30.2, which is going to be coming out on August 20th, which is, I believe, Tuesday.
It is Tuesday.
I'm just double checking. Yep. Yeah. So that is Tuesday. So it might be out as you're hearing this. It might not, but it's coming out on Tuesday. But we got the patch notes well in advance. The bulk of the patch notes are all of the details for Battleground Season 8. We talked about that in a high level last week. I don't think we're really going to go into the details. It does talk about, the trinket mechanic and goes into all of the trinkets that are available in both the turn 6 pool and the turn 9 pool. Plus all of the minions that are changing or added or moved or, had a story to tell or whatever, what have you. It's a lot of, I'm actually strolling on the screen and I'm kind of stalling because I'm still scrolling through all of the cards. But there's a number of card pool changes. They remove 41 minions from the minion pool. They have 22 minions that were not in the pool previously, but are not new that are returning. So they're the most important of those is Leapfrogger is back. I think that's the most significant of all of those. Oh, and Greasebot, I guess, is another one that's kind of a big deal that you're going to want to be aware of. But yeah, so like there's a lot going on. I would really encourage you, if you are a Battlegrounds player, to read the patch notes and really look at all the changes that are happening, because there are a whole lot of them, and we've got a lot to talk about, so we're not going to go through that. But the new Battlegrounds season does seem pretty cool, so I'm interested to see what that looks like on Tuesday. We are also getting with the new season, we're getting a new Battlegrounds track in Season Pass. Ben Hearthstone has very kindly tagged me to let me know that there is a new Watfin sighting in one of the portraits, which, you know, I'm very happy about. So I'll probably end up getting it anyway. And, you know, assuming the season's good, then if I feel like I'm going to play through it enough, then, which I normally do, play it enough to, and I do like the idea of the trinket mechanics, so I'm interested to see how that plays out. But yeah, so new Battleground season is kind of the bulk of it, though we do have some non-Battlegrounds news. There's a new arena season that is starting with the new patch. It will again be full expansions, dual class arena, one legendary card per draft is your first card. And that is going to be dual class is going to be until further notice. The one legendary per draft is your first card will be until they announce otherwise. So that's kind of the way that arena is going to be. They did allude to a wider arena refresh that's coming down the line. I wouldn't even say later this year, but down the line. But that's not here yet. So that'll be how this is going. And they're going to tie arena seasons to major patches, the content patches. So the dot even numbered patches. So 30.0, 30.2, 30.4, 30.6. Those will be when arena seasons are rolling over. So be prepared about once every 2 months to save your last arena run so that you get the arena tickets so that you can do the next one. The sets that will be in arena for this coming season will be Core, Perils in Paradise, Whizbang's Workshop, Titans, March to the Lich King, and Voyage to the Sunken City. So the sets from this year, and then the sets from kind of an assortment of sets from the last couple of years. So not quite standard, but a little bit still more quote unquote modern Hearthstone. We're getting another in-game event, the Marin Resorts Treasure Hunt, from August 27th, which is a week from Tuesday, as we're recording this, to September 17th. So it's a longer stretch. Complete event quests to earn XP on the special event track. This time there are weekly event quests instead of a legendary quest chain alongside the daily event quests. So it's all packs. There's going to be 14 total packs. 7 from Perils in Paradise, 4 from Whizbang's Workshop, 3 from Showdown in the Badlands. The weekly quests are tougher than the usual quests, but they're designed to be completed over the course of a week or two instead of a day or two. But completing 3 weekly quests will award enough XP to earn the first 3 tiers of event rewards. This will take you a little bit longer to work through, and you won't see the progression as quickly, but if you're doing the quest, you should get there. If you don't complete a weekly quest on 1 week, it will bank the quests behind it. So as soon as you finish that 1 weekly quest, you'll be granted the next one immediately. Otherwise, they're going to roll over at the start of a week for you. So it's a different way to do those events, but it's a way for them to give more rewards, but also it's expected that it's going to take longer. So don't be discouraged if it feels like it's kind of taking a while. And because this is the 0.2 patch, it is Heroic Tavern Brawl time, because that typically comes in. Usually the Heroic Tavern Brawl comes in between the release of the 0.2 patch and the release of the standard mini set. However, this time it is a wild Heroic Tavern Brawl. They haven't done this in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. I can't actually remember the last time that they did a wild Heroic Tavern Brawl. It's been a minute.
I don't feel like it's as long as you think. I feel like they did
Maybe
one last year. Yeah.
I feel like the last 3 were all standard at least, but
yeah, I think they're maybe going for like once a year. They do a wild one of these.
Yeah. So other than that, it's the same heroic brawl that you either know and love or know and don't love. The prizes are the same. There's no cosmetic for getting 12 wins. There's just packs and dust and golden legendaries.
Yeah.
So as usual, if you are you playing this for the rewards? Don't. The real reward is posting a deck list on Twitter. But if this is something where you are willing to invest the money in the experience, then it's a good experience to try, especially in Wild. If you're, I would want to be fairly competent in Wild before doing this, to be honest. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a huge collection, but you should have an idea of what the Wild meta looks like and what kinds of things to expect before investing 1,000 gold in this. I would not just like throw 1,000 gold at this on a whim, hoping to get some packs out of it, because you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah. Wild is a pretty unforgiving format in certain ways because it's very, very fast. So, I mean, I wouldn't do this without at least like going into our Wild channel and being like, someone give me a primer. And, trying to find some decks because it's a very different meta. There are some decks that kind of echo standard decks, but a lot faster. But then there's a lot of other things that you kind of want to have a sense of what your opponent's playing as well. If you play like the first day and you're okay just playing for the experience and you're not trying to get the rewards, then, maybe it doesn't matter whether you know Wild as much. But if you're going for the higher finish, you're going to want to be someone who plays Wild probably.
Yeah. I'd want to be not just grinding Wild ladder, but I'd want to probably be getting up to like Diamond 5 in Wild, just because I guess at the beginning matches, you're probably going to see a lot of wacky stuff, but I would say once you get beyond a couple of wins, you're going to start condensing down to what the Wild meta is. And I don't actually, now that I'm saying that, I don't even know how useful knowing the Wild meta is going to be below like 3 wins. Because if there's going to be a bunch of people just playing things, it's probably going to be like trying to climb Wild ladder after you haven't for a while, where it's just like you're just seeing all kinds of stuff. But yeah, but if you're putting that gold in, I'd want to make sure you're getting your gold out of it. Anyhow, so that means that we should probably be hearing about the next mini set in a couple weeks, because usually it's a little bit early, but maybe maybe for them to start revealing on the 28th, that's like 2 weeks away from now.
Soon, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, it feels like it.
Are things just feel like, even though they waited on that first balance patch, I think that this is still way too soon. I wouldn't connect Wild Heroic Tavern Brawl with mini set. Maybe they'll do a standard one later, or maybe they won't, but I feel like we've still got some time for this to stew before.
Yeah, it does feel like if it was like 1 week later, I might be thinking that. But I mean, it's starting like a week from yesterday. So it's starting like the day after the patch drops, which is not normally when the Heroic Tavern Brawl, like usually there's a couple week lag. So yeah, I don't know that, like, normally that's been just kind of the way things have gone. I don't think I would expect a mini set announcement right after this Tavern Brawl like we normally have gotten. And that might just be a way for them to just kind of mix things up, and because we've gotten very used to that cadence.
Yeah.
But we also have a number of significant bug fixes and changes. First one, our long national nightmare is over. Fixed a bug where playing on full screen Mac desktop and tabbing away from the game would cause a crash.
Yay! This must have been a really hard bug to fix.
Yeah. Yeah, and it has been very annoying. Just even playing like in windowed mode and just using the dock does not protect you. And I've and normally, like, I'll usually, when that happens, is because I'm clicking away when I shouldn't be, and then I forget that things are happening because I don't hear any noises in the background, and then it's like, oh, I'm not hearing any noises back in the background because it crashed and I missed my next 2 turns. Hooray. So it'll be nice for it to not be doing that anymore. So But
I just only ever have I only ever have one desktop and one space, and I switch other ways, and so it hasn't been as much a problem for me, but that is not how most people use their Macs. And so I'm glad that you don't have to remember to use your Mac in a weird way and then still have it mess up. Very good.
Yeah. So improved shop badging, the exclamation point, including badging on subcategories to make it clear what is new and removing redundancy across devices so you don't see the same new thing multiple times. Chef's kiss. No notes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. This is a big one. Updates to the bonus effect keyword. Stealth has been replaced with elusive in the pool of bonus effects. Additionally, rush will no longer be granted to minions that can already attack for the turn, that already did attack for the turn, or if it's not your turn. So the effect, basically, the net of this is that, and I think this is what Hat said in the Discord today, is that the bonus effects are designed to punish you less for attacking. Because like when you summon a minion and then it gets a bonus effect, or if you have a like a mini bot that you're going to in, like, let's say in hand buff paladin, right? Like you've got a mini bot from the drone deconstructor and you want to magnetize it onto a minion. If it's got stealth, you've just wasted the stealth if you buff the minion and then attack. So now that stealth would be elusive instead. And so that won't be as much of a waste.
Wait, are we sure that's true of the Spark bots?
Spark bots are get bonus effects.
I mean, I'm just surprised because that's creating like new art potentially, or I guess if they replace the stealth art with,
they could just reuse one for the other. The colors had never made any sense anyway.
I think mostly of the camouflage hunter
camouflage
card,
mount.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's, I mean, this isn't super played. It was briefly in Shaman, but there's the thing that summons 5 soldiers that all have random bonus effects. And
well, there's also the death rattle beast in Hunter that gives all your beasts a random effect when it dies too.
There's a graphic here from Goku that I think is everything. So there's also Elemental Inspiration, Badlands Bandits, which we revealed and then have never seen since. Fossilized Kaleidoscore, One Amalgam Band, Iridescent Gyreworm, and the Sparkbots, and then the other ones that we mentioned. Yeah, that's
a big deal for one Amalgam Band too, because it's the same problem that you get with Ziliax that you have with old Ziliax, right? Where you're playing like a divine or like a taunt lifesteal minion, and then it has stealth and it can't save you, right? Especially if it doesn't get rush. So like that's, or if it does have rush and you want to attack it, you're wasting the stealth, right? So
it does nerf the ability to have a stealth Wind Fury minion that you're going to kill them with next turn.
Good. Because I mean, that was the other thing that Mech Rogue would do, and not having stealth in the mini bots is also kind of a big deal for that too. I mean, elusive is still good.
I mean, that's the biggest deal, I think, honestly, right? Like overall, I think this is a net positive change, but it is a big hit to, Mech Rogue and Hand Buff Paladin specifically, where it was like a big high roll to get the 1 mana stealth, right? For Paladin, you could put that on the Power Twin, one of the 2 Power Twin Ziliax halves, so that you could just almost guarantee that it would survive to the next turn to kill them. And of course, for Mech Rogue, you put it on anything.
Except for the one game I had today where they had the Power Twin Ziliax, the Hand Buff Paladin. I was on DK. And they also had like a Customs Enforcer or something that was really large. I play my Reska. I run it in. I steal the Customs Enforcer instead of the 2 Power Twin. And they emote at me. And then I think I did back wow, because I had discovered off of my Frost Strike another Reska. Which got their stealth Power Twin that was about to go up to lethal. I normally don't emote when I do things like this, but I was like, you emoted first. So
one emote deserves another.
So some other changes that happened. Hydration Station will now only be able to be played if top minions have died. So you can't accidentally play it for nothing. It just won't let you play it anymore. Play it now. So that's a good quality of life change. Cabaret Headliner could target spells that cost 0 when there are other options available. So we're going to talk about one of the builds of Death Knight that runs Horn of Winter.
Mm-hmm.
And having that discount Horn of Winter is a feels bad. So it will try to discount other things, which is good. And then explain to Magic Wisdom Ball that locations aren't minions, but they do take up spots on the board. So mirror image is not actually helpful if you have a board full of minions and location. Now, I don't believe that Magic Wisdom Ball really listens to anything, but I'm going to take it on their word that they explain successfully. And also they fixed a bug where if your max mana was already above 20, I guess if you'd played Guff and then, or you played enough New Heights, to get your max mana above 20, and then you played Wild Heart Guff, it would reset it to 20. I don't think that's a bug. I think that's a feature.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you're doing that, you deserve to be punished. But that's just my own editorializing, I suppose. So
now they have fixed it so that Guff does reset it to 20. Before it wouldn't reset.
Oh, it wasn't. So now it is. Oh, good. Okay, never mind. That's never mind. My bad.
Yeah. There's lots of other.
Definitely,
yeah. No, that is the good way. There's lots of other bug fixes too, by the way, but we won't list all of them.
Yeah. So that's that. One other thing in terms of bugs is that the free Golden Pack saga is still continuing. They've made some changes to it. So if you try to claim the pack, like one thing the deck tech said is seeing some folks asking if they should try to claim the pack now. Yes, if you haven't tried yet, give it a go. You'll either be safe and get it right away, or you'll get stuck by the bug and get put on the list of people to heal up later. So in other words, it's a 50% chance of getting it to work. Either it works or it doesn't. What'll happen is if you don't get the free pack after you claim it, it will be gifted to you later. So if you want to try it, just go ahead. If if Yogg smiles on you, then you will have the gold pack and you'll just be able to open it. And if not, you'll get it later on. You'll get a nice surprise later. They have pushed back all of the anniversary rewards by a week because of this, to allow them time to figure out what the hell's going on. And also to, because people weren't claiming them. So they'll give people a little bit extra time to get the rest of those rewards. So that is all of the news, but we have an actual tournament this weekend. So we need to go and talk about that.
It's the grand tournament.
Yay, I can be relevant again. All right, so we have a preview for the Masters Tour Summer Championship. They actually did mild promo progress, people. Yeah, they announced it on Twitter and on the Play Hearthstone channel, and gave this viewer's guide. They said when it's gonna be each day. I mean, really, it's steps were taken. I did have to laugh that the viewer's guide begins, the last Masters Tour of the year is this weekend, as though we've been having a bunch and now at the end of fall, we're on the final one, rather than the truth, which is this is the second and final one before Worlds. But, maybe they're just creating a boilerplate for things to be better next year. One can dream, perhaps. But 16 of the top players from the June and July ladder rankings will compete for their share of the $50,000 prize pool and 2 invites to the 2024 World Championship, I think that should say, across 3 days of streaming action. Read on for everything you need to know to enjoy the show. And so it gives, the dates, the format, which is same as always, 4 decks, best of 5 conquest with a ban. By the time you're hearing this, probably most of it has already happened, right? It's going to be Friday, August 16th to Sunday, August 18th, starting at 9 a.m. Pacific, each day, or noon Eastern, or 6 p.m. CEST for our European folks. And yeah, prize pool 50K. There will be drops. You can earn up to 3 Perils in Paradise packs while watching on Twitch all weekend, up to 1 pack per day. And it's going to be cast by Dragon Rider, Lorinda, Raven, Soddle, and TJ. I am going to a friend's wedding on Saturday. There will be co-streamers, but I'm going to try and, I'll have the wedding on Saturday, but then Sunday, my D&D group is not meeting as usual, so I might try and do some co-streaming Sunday. We'll see. In terms of groups, we finally got the official ones instead of just the, here's what Pocket Train thinks they're going to be. We have Group A, WeQ, Definition, Maori, and Fury Hunter. Group B is Yu, Yarla, McBanterface, and Dead Draw. Group C, Gabby, Gamer RVG, Photon, and Maxibon1234. Group D is the group that has names not written in Roman characters. So we have a Korean player who I don't recall how this is pronounced, Inkuro. Another name that I believe is written in some form of Chinese, and then Me Smile.
Yeah, it's Japanese.
Oh, is it Japanese?
I think so.
The characters are quite similar, and it's hard to tell.
I guess it's either Japanese or it's Chinese, and they're from Taiwan, one or the other.
Could be, yeah. So hopefully by the time I'm reporting on the results of this, I will have the actual transliterated pronunciation.
Oh, actually, we might
names.
have them from Donkey's site. Yeah, Donkey has. Oh no, he doesn't. Never mind. I lied.
Darn.
No.
Yeah, Korean is very easy.
We do have the lineups. So.
Korean is very easy to tell that it is Korean because the script is fairly distinct from.
Oh, it is a Taiwanese player. Yeah, you're right.
Cool.
That is Chinese because that's a Taiwanese player. Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, look, I don't recall these look like the groups that Pocket said.
I think he had to correct them midweek because they're for one reason or another. But yeah,
gotcha.
Enough.
But
I mean, it's you know that it's going to be one from each region and then points. So it's just a matter of where everybody ends up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In terms of lineups, I don't have a full stats analysis. I'm just looking at HS Guru. Is that the new name instead of Donkey's website?
I mean, it's always Donkey's site in my heart.
HS Guru. Our Korean friend has the one of the decks we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about all the versions of this, but the Frost Unholy Rainbow DK or Spell School DK. I like to call it Chicago DK or Billy Floyd DK. Shout out to anyone who understands that reference and figures it out.
I just like calling it FU DK, but
sure, yeah.
Fossey DK.
Contact me in the Discord if you understand my musical references. Tempo Druid, which we talked about it, love it or hate it.
That's the Doomkin list, basically.
Yeah, it's miserable. Hand Buff Paladin, which I imagine is a nod to people bringing Druid, right? Just the knowledge that people are going to be bringing forms of Druid means you go Hand Buff Paladin with the hey, screw your cards that are generated.
Customs Enforcer, my favorite card of all time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's solid when it's a 5/8. And then Evolved Shaman, which is our good buddy that we talked about. Just tokens with turn them all into random legendaries. Dead Draw, again, Tempo Druid, Overheal Priest, Miracle Rogue. Miracle Rogue is Sonya Rogue. For those unclear. It is Grifta Mixologist Rogue. Where you basically infinite Sonyas because of Breakdance, Tidepool Pupil, and Sonya. Enjoy it in this tournament. Most people have brought it, and it's unlikely it will stay this way. But it's really cool to watch high-level players play. I played some of it. There is a way of playing it where I think you don't have to just spot the lethal every time. You can just make sure that you always end with a Tidepool pupil, a Breakdance, and a Sonya in your hand, or a Sonya and a Tidepool pupil that has Breakdance in its memory. It doesn't have to be in your hand yet.
Yeah.
As long as you end your turn with that in your hand every turn, you're fine. You just need to give yourself an advantageous board position. You don't need to kill them right away with Grift trinkets yet. But I'm sure they will get faster lethals with this.
I'm just looking forward to checking in on Lorinda if he's, well, I guess he's not going to, they're not going to be streaming tomorrow, but just checking in on what their rank looks like after the weekend, because they've been jamming games of this for like 2 straight days trying to learn it. And I can just imagine like Lorinda and Soddle in a Discord call, like with Soddle just tearing Lorinda to pieces the entire time. That just needs to be like a comedy series that the esports team puts out, because that would be must see TV.
Yeah. And then Dead Draw's final deck is Nature Shaman. Dead Draw has truly gone for like the full APM here. Surprisingly, it must be a matchup thing, but having the Tempo Druid instead of Concierge Druid. But otherwise, Overheal Priest, Miracle Rogue, Nature Shaman, I mean, those are all just like solitaire decks. I say that in like
Overheal Priest is
the
more
most
of a control
impressive
deck,
way
really.
possible, right? Like they largely care about doing their own thing and killing the opponent.
I mean, Overheal Priest is as close to a control deck as we really have right now, I think.
I guess, yeah. Overheal and this iteration of like Sonya and Miracle Rogue both are kind of like, you have modes of play where it's like in Overheal, you're just resurrecting the thing to clear their board over and over, right?
Which you do a lot, actually. Yeah.
In Miracle, again, as I described, you just make sure you have the Sonya, the way of constantly doing Sonya every time, and you can do whatever else you want to clear. I had a turn where I was just like, oh, we got dehydration off of whatever that one costs. Get a quick draw card is. Stick up. Yeah. Guess we're just going to kill all their 8/8s they summoned with dehydration this turn. And as long as I end with Sonya in hand, I'm good. But
oh my god.
Yeah. Definition has Concierge Druid, Handbuff Paladin, Overheal Priest, Miracle Rogue, Fury Hunter, Concierge Druid, Overheal Priest, Miracle Rogue, Insanity Warlock. This is another big player for the tournament. Lots of Insanity Warlock. So it's interesting to see that one making a
because it's very good
resurgence. Yeah. Gamer RBG, Handbuff Paladin, Overheal Priest, Miracle Rogue, Insanity Warlock. Gyu, Tempo Druid, Handbuff Paladin, Overheal Priest, Miracle Rogue. You may be seeing a theme here. Inkuro, Tempo Druid, Overheal Priest, Cycle Rogue. Now, this, as I understand it, is basically the Miracle Rogue, but you have added Gaslight Gatekeepers and Playhouse Giant, and everything must go. Gives a little bit more potential to blow out the opponent. I imagine it is occasionally better in the mirror, because you can just kind of get big stuff out faster. Also, you've got Speaker Stompers, because, yeah.
Of the rest of these lineups.
That's really good if you look at what other people are playing. And then Insanity Warlock. Yarla. Tempo Druid. Cycle Rogue. Evolve Shaman. And FF Insanity Warlock. I have to see what
let's
makes
click
this.
on that and see what
it has the Taurus.
Sure.
So it's partly Death Knight. Frost, Death Knight, Insanity Warlock.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it has a freeze element, I guess.
Oh, yes.
Running summon. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, that's
Soul
just the
Freeze
Taurus,
plus Slippery Slope. So Slippery Slope is the one that freezes a character, draw a card for each frozen character.
Yeah.
Very, very cute. Just basically a way of adding a nice defensive card and Soul Freeze and getting to draw a bunch without paying your life off Slippery Slope. So that's cool. Maori Highlander Druid, the Soul Highlander Druid. Handbuff Paladin, Overheal Priest, Miracle Rogue. Maxibon, Handbuff Paladin, Overheal Priest, Miracle Rogue, Insanity Warlock. Badgerface, Handbuff Paladin, Overheal Priest, Miracle Rogue, Insanity Warlock. Me Smile. Oh, we come back round to the DKs. So Buttons, Rainbow DK. This one is truly Rainbow in runes as well as spell schools. Actually, sorry. Oh, no, it does have Razzle Dazzler. Okay. Overheal Priest, Miracle Rogue, Insanity Warlock. Wait, no, sorry.
Evolve Shaman.
Overheal Priest, Evolve Shaman, Insanity Warlock. Photon, Tempo Druid, Overheal Priest, Cycle Rogue. So again, that variation where you get the giants. And Pain Lock, the one Pain Lock of the event. Which I think maybe was expecting more Zarimi Priest to exist. But maybe not. I mean, it's also good into Druids, often, right? They can sort of cheese you if they have the swipes and spell damage, but it does hit the ground running very quickly and might be able to overwhelm a lot of decks in that way.
Yeah, I think the Pain Locks have been showing up more on sort of top legend ladder, which I'm slowly falling out of, because of the Druids, and then that has meant Zarimi Priest is a little bit of collateral damage.
Yep.
There was a moment, apparently over the weekend, Zaka was saying in his supporters channel, like, Zarimi Priest is going to run out of control with the meta, but then Painlock came up, and it's like, well,
yeah,
that's just always been a miserable matchup for Zarimi.
It is what I had been climbing with. Like, I got tired of being at the Diamond 5 ranked floor from trying all my random nonsense and decided to climb, and I did it with your Zarimi Priest, and then I looked up one where Zarimi is the most expensive dragon, and that did well as well. So now I've changed off it to do other things again, but I might actually get there with this rogue, which is fun and depressing. But I can't do it on iPad though, because I refuse. It's not that kind of deck that you can play on an iPad.
You just need to get a mouse for your iPad. That's all.
It also has, like, it's not fast enough. Connection-wise.
Oh, the iPad's not fast enough? Okay.
Yeah. I forget it was Superman from France. Concierge.
That's Gabby.
Yeah, yes, that's why. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. Gabby. Concierge Druid, Overheal Priest, Miracle Rogue, Nature Shaman, the second Nature Shaman of the event, along with Dead Draw. And then a WeQ on Double Rainbow DK, Tempo Druid, Handbuff Paladin, Insanity Warlock, and then our Taiwanese player, Double Rainbow DK, Tempo Druid, Overheal Priest, and Insanity Warlock. So it really, like, 5 classes. Wait, 6?
Yeah.
6 classes.
Death Knight, Druid, Paladin, Shaman, Rogue, Warlock, 6 classes.
Priest,
yeah. 6 classes with all the Paladins are hand buff. And that's very much a targeted thing. Players do not bring hand buff Paladin to tournaments if they don't have a specific target in mind.
Yeah.
So they all have Customs Enforcer. They have, Razor Scale for the real extra, like, yeah, screw you. It's like a 1 or 2 Razor Scales on top of the Customs Enforcer. Like, these Paladins have a job to do. And honestly might get banned in certain instances because of that. But Druid, it is basically Tempo or Concierge, with the exception of our one Highland Druid player in Maori. Overheal Priest is the Priest.
Yeah, it's 14 out of 16 lineups, the Overheal Priest. Only Yarla and the Korean player didn't bring them.
Yeah. And then Rogue is this Sonya Rogue, but 3 players have gone for the cycle variation. We'll see if that pays off for them in the mirrors. There's gonna be a lot of mirrors in this event. And then you've got just a sprinkling of shamans, 3 evolve and 2 nature. And all the warlocks but 1 are insanity. So we went from, like, and maybe this is just a tournament thing, but it had felt like there were just, like, a ton of options all over. So it is funny to then go to this post-patch first tournament, and the lineups are 6 decks. Or 6 classes with very minimal variation in archetypes.
Well, you've got a number of good decks, but not enough of them, right? So it makes sense that this is and there's not one big bad. Like if we had this like say a month ago, it probably would have been targeting, I guess, I don't know if it would have been targeting the warrior or targeting the druid ultimately, but it would have been one of those. But like the druids are kind of diverging, so you can't really target one of those particularly well. Like Overheal Priest seems like the deck you should target, but I don't think anybody's going to, right? Because like it's kind of the deck that's there, but I don't think anyone's really looking at that as like this is the terror of the meta. It just happens to be good into the other things.
Well, and like I don't see that many Overpriests on ladder, right? This is one of those tournaments
occasionally, but not that
where,
much.
Like this is not super reflective of my ladder experience. Maybe I just like need to play more recently.
I think it's also
narrow to this, but
like brackets of, I've been seeing a little bit more Overheal Priest, I think, but even I think I would be seeing more if I were in like top 500 versus right now I've been playing right around 1K. But I'm still seeing probably, I guess I was seeing maybe an even spread of Zarimi versus Overheal when I ran into Priest, but not a ton of Priest. I definitely have been seeing a lot of Insanity Locks, a lot of hand buff Paladins, a lot of Tempo Druids. I think that is representative of ladder, but the hand buff Paladins were not necessarily so kitted out for this meta, and the Overheal Priest definitely not as common. But, tournaments generally like that. So it's not the same meta. And as usual, if you look at these lists, we do have these lists in the show notes, or you can find them on HS Guru. But, beware of just copying them and bringing them to ladder. They are not meant for ladder.
Yeah. And a note from Poker Joker in chat. So it looks like Fury, Maxibon, and Banter are all the ones who did not bring Druid or DK. They're all on a hand buff Pally, Overheal Priest, Miracle Rogue, and Insanity Warlock. And so they may well be like the full same card for card lineups. It looks like there's like mild variation in terms of, do you go one or two Deafens in Miracle Rogue? Those kinds of like tiny details that are sort of player preference, but very, very close lineups between that play group.
Makes sense.
So should be good. And I'll probably have this on in the background at various points during my weekend, as you do with events like this. Glad we have another one. Wish there were more. And I'm honestly excited to watch people play the Rogue, because it is impressive, even if it's miserable to lose to. Then I'm just going to quickly go over, we also had Concede listener series. We began our all-you-can-beat buffet series. In terms of lineups, very different from the MT. Lots of Zarimi Priest. That was the highest, 10 Zarimi Priests with 8 Pirate Shamans. You can tell this is more of a VS group. Insanity Warlock, 6. Temper Druid, 6. Aggro Paladin, 6. Handbuff Paladin, 6. So, lots of people playing those as well. Wait, does that technically put Paladin, like, as a class higher? I guess. It's just different archetypes between...
Yeah, I didn't combine together the classes. I think, actually, DK and Paladin, in terms of just, like...
Rock class, yeah.
Class would be higher. But if we separate out by... archetype. Yeah.
And then pretty close split of 6 double rainbow DK and 5 of rainbow DK that's not buttons. We had then after that Evolved Shaman, Pirate DH, the what they're calling Frostbitten DK, which is around the 3-drop death rattle that freezes 3 things, and like you trigger that a whole bunch for lots of damage, which is very fun. And then there were a couple of pain locks, a couple of concierge druids, a couple of spell mages, and a couple of Reno shamans. So Reno shaman seems fun, but not necessarily like top tier. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it. A lot of good cards in shaman right now. Some even more unique brings. The Overseer brought Tourist Sludge Warlock, Automaton Priest, and Reno Hunter, which has been, there've been a couple people posting Reno Hunter lists that they've been doing well with in Higher Legend.
CDC's had a bit of more of a spring in his step the last couple days than he had.
Yeah, it's
recently.
like, it's functional. I think it's more suffering now of like people not really being interested in trying it. So like you need those folks to who are the hunter specialists to kind of spread the word. But you know, it's getting some things. I feel like hunter can also suffer from the like it has to be OP for a lot of people to play it. But
yeah, it's like the paladin problem for the most part.
Jade Snow brought a big DH along with the triple Frost DK. And then Glacier also had a triple Unholy DK. I'd be curious to see what that looks like. Phantom Miner brought an Incendious Shaman. And then someone else brought an Elemental Shaman. There was a Reno Warrior, Odin Warrior, Mech Warrior, and Menagerie Warrior. So, you know, sprinklings of all kinds of things. One Brave Linessa Paladin player, one Elemental Mage, and one Big Spell Mage. I hope that is not my Orb deck. If so, I'm sorry. I love it a lot, but God, it gets murdered by Druid. In terms of some highlights, Ghetto Tech was playing a Painlock versus Glacier on Pirate Shaman. Extremely fast game in which both players got down to 1 health. Ghetto Tech on Painlock had an opener of turn 1 Party Fiend and Blood Treant and coin Flame Imp. Which got partly cleared by a jam session, and then turn 2, there was a Spirit Bomb, Party Fiend, Molten Giant. That's a lot of self-damage in 2 turns. So that left Ghetto Tech with an empty hand and 7 life, and then Glacier on 1 life after turn 4. But there were 2 sigils of skydiving for Glacier, but it was only 6 damage to reduce Ghetto Tech to 1. So that's just like fast and furious Hearthstone right there. You know, kind of thing you would expect out of a Nosdormu game. But other highlight, we had World 8 on a like weapon cycle rogue versus the Overseer on Automaton Priest. And it just says here, it kind of suffices to say that Rayla Sand Sculptor is filthy in rogue. It came off of an Everything Must
God,
Go.
that hurts my soul.
So, yeah, Everything Must Go, summons Rayla, and then you're just like, Shadow Step things? I don't know. Yeah.
Just lots of like, there was preps, Valera's gifts, Shadow Steps, Gear Shift, Raiding Party, even just like anything. And yeah.
I mean, just like prep, gift, backstab is 2 cards for 3 summons. That's pretty good.
Yeah, there like wasn't even room to like do the giants thing, and it didn't even matter.
Yeah.
It was like had to like trade stuff off to do giants.
I want some kind of like tempo mage or paladin to be good. I think this is weird to say. I agree with Zacho that Sea Shanty should go to 8. I think that would do it. 'Cause it often feels like Sea Shanty is like good but too slow. So
Yeah.
I think if you could
It's
just
close,
make it a little bit easier to bring out, because again, you don't have to reduce it all the way to 0. If you can just by turn 3 or 4 get it to be playable, right? If you can get it to 4 mana to play on 4, that's good. 4 for 3/5/5s is very good. But
But
anyway.
yeah, they don't have rush, they don't have taunt, so you know.
Yeah.
And you're not paying a huge amount for them necessarily, but you want them coming out earlier, and the deck just clearly needs a little help from something.
But we're going to talk about a very different deck, or at least different method of putting a bunch of minions into play all at once, which is Death Knight, which has a couple variations. So, why don't we move on over to Decksplanations?
All right, so I'm calling these just to make sure there isn't confusion. The Buttons Death Knight decks. People have also been calling them Rainbow DK as analogy to Rainbow Mage, as in Spell School DK. You have your Rainbow DK. Double Rainbow DK is like it's rainbow in its runes and it's a spell school, but I'm just calling it Buttons Rainbow. Or if we say rainbow when talking about different types of this, we mean the like double rainbow, right? Because the whole discussion.
It feels like we moved into like a My Little Pony card game.
There was also the Frost version of this Buttons Death Knight, which is not 3 Frost, it's Frost Unholy. Because Ruska is very important.
Yeah.
And we have in the show notes and on the screen for our live viewers 4 different deck lists. One is just the rainbow version, the Rainbow Buttons DK, which was popularized by Theo and featured on the VS Report today. And then we have 3 different versions of the Frost Rainbow DK. There's the version on the VS Report, which is similar to Jombray's version, except Jombray ran 2 Cabaret headliners and VS is running Hardcore Cultists. And then we, Wicked and I had found a couple other versions that we were trying out. One that brings the Corpsicle back into the Frost version, because the Frost version on the VS list does not run Corpsicle. And another one that brings back in the Cabaret headliners and just like a little more draw. So we'll talk a little bit more in a second about specific card choices, but just to first give like the elevator pitch and then delineate the 2 archetypes. So basically what we're doing in this deck is chipping down the opponent with lots of damage. You've got Horizon's Edge, you've got lots of little guys, and then you have a huge swing turn in the form of Razzle Dazzler, which is now a very good card. And you don't necessarily need to get, if you do get it to a bunch of spell schools, it's awesome, but you don't even necessarily need to get it to a ton of spell schools. Even if you've only played one, even if you've only played Frost, it summons 2 5/5s like it is a Jandis Barov.
Yeah. The important thing about that card is that the number that's in the parentheses is the number of additional 5-drops you're going to summon.
Yeah.
The card is kind of confusing in the way that it's worded because you always summon 1 5-drop. And then you summon an additional 1 for each spell school. So the number in the parentheses is the number of additional. So you have to add 1 to that to find out how many 5-drops you're going to get. Plus, you also get a 4/4 body.
So if you're thinking of how many board slots is this, it's the number in parentheses plus 2. So I definitely did find it took a few reps of the deck to get used to that, because I'd be like, oh, I'm only going to get 1 5-drop off this. Nope, I'm getting 2 5-drops and a 4/4 body. That makes it feel much better to play, even if you haven't found your other spell school. So you're running a bunch of Frost spells. They all pretty much have been running Frost Strike, which it is good to discover things off of that. Some people have been talking about cutting it, but no one can figure out what to cut for it, so it's been staying in most of these lists. And then either Corpsicle, or if you're running the Frost version, like Horn of Winter, or both. And then you also have Ruska, and you can combo that with the Brittlebone Buccaneer in some versions to help take back the board when they're larger. You have a lot of sort of AoE. You either have threads in the Rainbow version, or like Ruska with the Brittlebone, and I think that's why probably Zeko put Hardcore Cultist in the Frost version, because you don't have threads.
Yeah, but Hardcore Cultist usually isn't going to do that much. I mean, unless it's like on curve.
It's a nod to the Shaman matchup, right?
Which is not nearly as popular anymore.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're seeing. If you're seeing a lot of, like, I've been seeing a lot of Pirate Demon Hunter today. It's good against Pirate Demon Hunter.
Probably just trying to get under druids, I guess. Yeah.
And it can get under things. But even so, you do have, with like mining casualties, with the Dreadhound Handler, you have a lot of ways to like get back on board. You can sometimes discover an extra Reska, like I mentioned earlier in the show, completely getting a hand buff paladin that way. So you have kind of a combination of little guys and chip damage and then big swing turns. Obviously, in the Rainbow version, you also have Eliza and Ghoul's Knight. That's a huge amount of damage, plus just every little guy you have is more. I did have a game. It was actually the Frost version, not even the Rainbow version. I discovered an Eliza off my Frost Strike, and I also discovered a Dead Air, and I also had a Brittlebone Buccaneer in my hand.
Goodness.
So I had 3 Elizas.
Oh,
They did the threaten emote when they conceded, and I deserved
I'm sure
it.
they did. I bet they did. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, that was not fair. And then what the Frost is running kind of instead of that is Mirror Manipulator, which is still a good card. You're still doing 10 damage most of the time in the 2 damage pings. And as usual, if you need to use it as board clear, it usually will clear the board, although it has the thing where if you want it to go face, it won't go face, and if you don't want it to go face, it will go face, because that's Murphy's Law and how it works. But if you can clear the board, of course, then it's just 10 damage face.
And I will say, I feel like Mirror Manipulator is better in this deck than it has been in even like old Triple Frost decks, right? Because the problem you had with Frostworm's Fury deck is Frostworm's Fury gave you a plan of, oh, well, I'll just go face and freeze their board and then kill them. But Mirror Manipulator, you really didn't want them to have anything when you were playing it, so it could deal 10 damage. This deck, obviously, it's not Triple Frost, so you're not doing that freeze their whole board. But between Malted Magma and Horizon's Edge, and just like tokens and Horizon's Edge, you usually have a way of clearing their board.
The Horizon's Edge is an insane way to keep the board clear and then still be doing some extra damage over the top. Aggressive matchups are some of our favorite things to see when playing this deck, because we can really fight for board, and we can fight for board from behind. So it's very different than playing like Zarumi Priest, where you really want to be fighting from above, because you have so much rush, you have so much ability to do like small amounts of AoE, that, you know, you have like Frost Strike, you have Down with the Ship. Most of the spells that are not Frost spells you are only one-ofs. Some have been running 2 natural talents, but the idea is you want to draw lots of things if you do play buttons. And if you are playing Cabaret Headliner, you want to discount lots of things and just have more like one-ofs. It's kind of like playing, sometimes we'd play one-ofs in Menagerie decks, because the point is just to get the number of schools to be higher. So it is more one-ofs than one typically sees in decks. And natural talent, I had a bullet point lower down. It turns out it really makes a big difference when it's discounted by 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a lot of good Naga hits too. The Keyboard Soloist, which is the one that if you have no other minions, it summons 2 spell damage things, and then if you play Malted Magma with that, that's really good. Obviously there's like the big hits like another Razzle Dazzler, right? Another Cabaret Headliner, but even just like Dreamboat with all your little like mining casualty guys, totally fine. Dry Scale Deputy for free, that's fine.
Yeah. If I had to describe a difference between like the Double Rainbow and the Frost, like, yes, there's, Horn of Winter, there's other things, but really it's like the Double Rainbow one is still aiming to go a bit long, right? It runs 2 Corpuscles so that it can, keep clearing the board and get that 3 damage in, and then it has the power spike of Razzle Dazzler, but you're running Perfect Twin Ziliacs. If you're running Perfect Twin Ziliacs in a deck, it means you think that sometimes games are going to turn 9. The Frost one doesn't really want that to happen.
No, it super does not.
They definitely feel different, and that the Rainbow one is very, or not, I mean, it can sometimes pressure faster, but it's a slower deck in general. It wants to have sort of like burst damage. It runs the Primus, right? It's expecting a longer game. It runs Threads. Whereas the FFU is, of course, Donkey put it that in that order, and it's also alphabetical order. I get it, plausible deniability, right? The Frost version, you are wanting to be faster, and for that reason, I think it's potentially a little bit better into Druid, although it's still definitely unfavored into Druid.
Yeah, you can see the difference in the 2-drops, right? Like the Frost one has a lot more 2-drops that make minions, right? Whereas the double rainbow, you've got threads and corpsicle, and like if half your 2-drops are spells, right? I mean, they both have Frost Strike because it's just solid, but it's going to be a bit more awkward. Whereas the Double Frost Unholy version, a lot of games you go Brittlebone on 2, and they're like, oh god, that 1/4 is going to kill me. Not because it's, doing a bunch of damage, but because then they can play a Dreadhound Handler, and that is infinite corpses. Like, for all intents and purposes, like if you Brittlebone Buccaneer into Dreadhound Handler, like I've often gone Coin Buccaneer, because if they don't do something ridiculous, it's going to stay. And then Dreadhound Handler, just one, if they have somehow developed a bunch of stuff, like you get to rush into one thing and then it revives and you can rush into another thing. And both times summoning a Mermy, essentially, right? A 1/1 reborn. So that's 6 corpses, which is enough to fuel your Marrow Manipulator on curve by itself. And it's just really sticky, right? Helps you then protect the Brittlebone Buccaneer to then get that to trigger on your Harbinger of Winter, so you can draw those Frost Strikes and Horn of Winters. If you are this like more draw heavy one with the Cabaret Headliners, right? You can curve it into Chillfallen Baron, which is nice. So Brittlebone Buccaneer is, I think, really a top performing card in these lists, even though I wouldn't call them Death Rattle decks specifically. It is one of your best tools for just kind of snowballing early boards. I mean, even on a Miracle Salesman, right? Like just getting...
Yeah. You don't need to save it for Reska necessarily.
Yeah, just getting it on any Death Rattle just to get more bodies. Though one thing that you do need to be aware of when you're playing the Frost version is that you need blood to get the lifesteal on
Seamstress.
Why am I blanking?
Rainbow Seamstress. So if you're not actually Rainbow, she doesn't have the lifesteal.
Yeah. Right. She has the Rush and the Reborn, but not the lifesteal. So just be aware of that when you're factoring in what your life total is going to be. Because I did not do that the first couple of times I was playing that version of the list, and I'm like, why is my life total so low? Oh, right, I don't get lifesteal anymore.
Yeah.
So you do have a little bit. You're expecting to end the game sooner with the Double Frost version because you don't have the lifesteal from the Seamstress, you don't have the lifesteal from the Ziliax, and you don't have threads to be able to clear a big board.
Or Runes of Darkness into Courtside Crusher, right?
Right. Yeah. So you don't have room. So I mean, you can get a Courtside Crusher off of like a Frost Strike, but you're not expecting to generate that off of a Runes of Darkness. But also it means that you don't really care if they keep freezing your face in the mirror and you can't attack because you don't run weapons anyway. So fine. Who cares?
Yeah. And when I've faced the Double Rainbow version as the Frost version, they've almost been better off taking, I mean, sometimes the Courtside Crusher just for the healing, because that's insane still. But the Foam Render, because they're like, I'm just going to knock you down faster, and it doesn't matter whether I'm frozen or not. So I think what I might want to try next is basically replacing the Rainbow Seamstress with the Chillfallen Baron, but keeping a Corpsicle. Because having one Corpsicle is nice for just a little bit of extra damage. You do, if you have a Corpsicle in the Frost version, though, do be aware that you don't want to like deactivate your Marrow Manipulator. It's not that hard, but you just have to pay a little bit of attention.
Yeah. That might be why it's also not in most of those versions, just because you already have those, you're spending those corpses in other ways. And also you're already running 4 frost spells, right? So like it's another frost spell that you're running. I mean, you do have the Harbingers of Winter. Harbingers of Winter is also a pretty good target to give Reborn that's got Death Rattle because you're just drawing 2 frost spells out. So that's not nothing. But then it's a 5th frost spell that you're drawing, so it does increase your variance when you're playing buttons, when you're killing off a Harbinger of Winter. Like the extra like tempo you get from Horn of Winter is not nothing. It is, you do need to make sure that you're making use of it, but that extra tempo is significant. Also, I do love the fact that I usually use the Reska Portrait, in which she, every time you play it, she exclaims, "That sound means get back to work."
And the Horn of Winter is kind of like the coin, which in an aggressive deck you tend to use somewhat early, in that you're using it for pressure, but you don't want to use it like just for a hero power unless you have like some good reason for that hero power, right? You want to be using it for like 2 drops on 2, or like you might need to use it to get an extra spell school in before you Razzle Dazzler or something like that. You could refresh to then, like play like a down with the ship and then refresh and then Razzle Dazzler on 6, for example. So you do want to plan ahead to like, am I going to need this on a later turn, but not a theoretical perfect turn, if that makes sense. Like, do I need this on a later turn that is near and easy to see in a way that is better than just getting more tempo now? Because it is the Frost version that's running Horn of Winter is a pretty aggressive deck. It's an aggressive deck that can fight from behind, but it is an aggressive deck.
Yeah, I would usually want to be using it with Brittlebone Buccaneer.
That is like the best use of it. Yeah,
that's the best use of it, is to make sure, because you really want Brittlebone Buccaneer to come down on the same turn as one of your 2 drops, and you don't want to be waiting till 4 for that. So if you can use that to get a Brittlebone Buccaneer down with the Dreadhound Handler, or with a Harbinger of Winter, or even with a Miracle Salesman, right? Like if you get that down that much earlier, or like the version that I was running today also has Chill Fallen Baron, which is just not so much because you're running out of stuff, but because you really want to cycle to find the Razzle Dazzler. So like if you can get 2 bodies and 2 draws off of that on 3, that's also really good. And then, you also want to make sure that you're getting your corpse count up so that you can Marrow Manipulator on curve. I think my general priority for turn 6, I would rather play Razzle Dazzler before I play Marrow Manipulator if I have them both in my hand, assuming that I have 5 corpses, just because they generally need to do a lot more to remove the Razzle Dazzler board, and that'll also either help you clear the rest of the way or just hit face enough to make the damage from the Marrow Manipulator more significant. But obviously either one of those that you can slam on 6, you want to. I think if you're just getting even 2 is fine. Like 2 in the parentheses is absolutely fine. Even if it's 1, if you're playing it on 6, the Razzle Dazzler, I think that's fine most of the time. You can low roll on the 5 drops, but I think the important thing with the Razzle Dazzler is don't expect too much other than them just being warm bodies.
Yeah. Every once in a while.
Sometimes you'll get a taunt. Sometimes you'll get a rusher. Most of the time, they're just vanilla minions with stats, and that's all you care about.
Very occasionally, you get Leroy. I had someone get 2 Leroys against me. I did not survive, and I was very displeased because I would have been perfectly okay in normal circumstances, but double Leroy was not it. Yeah,
sometimes you'll get AFK, and if you get AFK on a big Razzle Dazzler, that's really nice. Sometimes you'll get the 10-10 Rusher.
Oh, the frog. Yeah.
Rocket frog thing from Shaman.
There's a lot of good 5s.
There are definitely some good hits. You can't expect the good hit, but yeah.
Yeah, those are the exceptions, and there's a lot more just vanilla minions, and they're fine, right? Like, that's okay. Just like, don't play that defensively. I mean, sometimes you have to, and just hope you roll something. But don't expect it to be saving you if you're behind. If you have a choice between that or doing something else, I would do something else. But yeah, you're just kind of playing it for the bodies, and you just want to get the bodies to stick.
Well, and I would say, don't play it to save you if you really need to be saved. But if they have some, like, I think one way that I was misplaying this deck when I first picked it up was they would have some board, and I would want to like deal with that before I Razzle Dazzlered. It's like, no, you deal with it by Razzle Dazzling, and then you have a big board, and they have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if they're like about to kill you, Razzle Dazzler probably won't save you unless it's just your final Hail Mary, right? But if they just have some board, go ahead and do it. Just play it. Then you can Mirror Manipulator later. I was doing the reverse order too often, I think. So Gorgon Zormu is in all of these decks pretty much. Good card. You play it kind of like you do in almost all things that it's in. Don't necessarily be too greedy about the cheese. If you have something else to play that's like nearly as good and then you can play the cheese next turn, great. Or like if you're about to Razzle Dazzler, maybe don't cheese because you're going to need board space. But in general, what I try to do is like if all things are equal, try to play the Gorgon Zormu earlier so that the cheese gets bigger. But if you have if it's turn 3 and like you could Brittlebone, Horn of Winter, Chill Fallen Baron, like do that instead of the Gorgon Zormu. But all things being equal, you play the Gorgon Zormu a little bit earlier, you get a slightly bigger cheese, but mostly you're just looking for bodies and corpses than you are for holding it to be really big. And that's true even most of the time in Zarimi. That's like the one exception where sometimes you're waiting for it to be really big because you can give them all charge, essentially, with Zarimi. And definitely think about what you want off Frost Strike in different matchups. It mostly depends on what you get offered, but think about whether you need to stay a little bit longer, especially if you're playing the double rainbow or you're trying to pressure them as quickly as possible. If you are facing a druid, that is probably your least favorite matchup.
Yeah, by a wide margin.
Yeah, by a wide margin. Like something like, even like Handbuff Paladin, we have Reska. We can make super wide boards, and Handbuff Paladin's not necessarily good at wide boards. You do have to expect that they will have tons of lifesteal. But you can try to kill the lifesteal minions without trading into them by using your spell damage there. Sometimes it's okay to use the Mirror Manipulator to clear lifesteal minions. But I found Handbuff Paladin pretty winnable, Insanity Warlock pretty winnable. Highlander Warrior apparently is common enough. I did not run into it, but we're apparently favored there, so... but I haven't actually played that one. Druid, you're almost certainly not going to kill them before they get ramp stuff happening because their ramp is just so consistent right now. They have like 7-ish ramp spells depending on the build. Ramp cards depending on their build. So you're probably not going to beat their ramp, but you want to be like as close as possible to killing them before they start doing shenanigans, and then you hope that they like whiff on their Marin or something like that. Fi can be maybe the most dangerous thing, actually, because if you have to trade through that thing that heals them all the way up.
Yeah.
So that's a thing to try to steal with Reska if possible. It's not always possible. And occasionally you just have to hope that they don't have it, but if you can clear it with as few trades as possible, that is your goal. Because I think Fi is actually the most frustrating thing, besides like they stuck a Dorian and then they Doomkinned me twice and then they got an ANR for 1 mana. Fi is like the most annoying, reasonable thing that happens. If you really just want to beat druids, then like Painluck, Zarimi Priest, stuff like that is a better bet for you than DK. But if you're okay with having that be a 40-60 matchup, and especially if you're playing the Frost version, then I think that this Death Knight is really well situated into most of the rest of the field. And especially if something happens to Druid, we don't have like balance changes imminent or anything like that, but if at some point something happens to Druid, that would clearly help this deck. I think that basically covers the notes that I had. Is there any other thoughts anyone wanted to add?
No, deck is fun, new, pretty good. Just trying to dodge the druids.
Yeah. I suppose I'll say mulligan really quick because I forgot that. So basically, Gorgon Zormu, Salesman, Dreadhound, Mining Casualties. If you're in the Frost one, like Brittlebone with another Death Rattle, and like Harbinger. Also good keeps.
Yeah. You don't want to keep Frost Strike. Usually you want to draw that off of something.
Yeah.
unless it's something where you need to kill an early minion on site. Like against Priest, I might consider it just to be able to kill like the Chirurgeon or the Crimson Clergy. That might be a matchup where I would keep it, but generally you want to draw that off as something.
Yeah, and if I have Brittlebone and no Death Rattles, I think the only card I wouldn't throw back is Gorgonzormu. Because, I would want to keep Brittlebone and just look for those Death Rattles. I mean, that's kind of your best way of snowballing a board.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
And buttons. Usually you want to keep buttons.
I would throw buttons away if I had Brittlebone.
Yeah. I mean, on the coin, maybe not on the play, but on the coin, I would keep buttons a lot of the time, just because like making sure that he's a 4-mana draw 4, especially in a slower matchup, is generally pretty good.
Sure. Yeah. Cool. Well, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check the thanks section on the website at concede.com. You can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. And write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. And if you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. CoinConcedes.
I want to shout out Talaknife for the 10 tier 1 subs during the show, as well as Oak A for the sub during the show. Thank you very much. I will also coin concede to my partner for all of his help this weekend. We had especially a sort of recording and editing snafu, where Edel's laptop cable just wasn't working, and there was nowhere near enough charge to get through editing. But he came to the rescue with a computer with Adobe on it, and we were able to get it edited. And thank you for editing with none of your normal setup.
Yeah, it took me some time to get my presets onto the new computer, but at least I was able to edit. Acer Predator Helios, not a laptop known for its extended battery life, particularly not after a few years.
Yeah, so that was a little difficult, but we figured it out. So thank you very much to my partner for that, and thank you to my friends, including Edel, who were able to come because I had a really, really nice time at the party this past weekend. And yeah, I was really glad to be able to have that, have people together for the friend group, because these are people who I hang out with individually all the time, but it's great to get a bunch of nerds together and nerd out together.
Wicked.
I'll coin concede to Ben Hearthstone for just, thinking of me when he sees a Watfin or a priest portrait. It's nice to get tagged for something other than people arguing with me about Shadow Step. So so that was a nice little surprise yesterday. So
I'm going to coin concede to Necra, who is casting the Pokemon Worlds coming up from Hawaii, and also agreed to kind of give me some advice and tips, both for learning how to play TFT, and also which Wicked I'm sure will help me as well.
Yeah, I'll call up with you whenever you want.
Yeah,
so.
And also breaking into new casting spaces, because I would like to cast more, and I don't feel like I'm getting that from Hearthstone at this point.
Yeah, it's fair. Well, that's going to do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and watch the Masters Tour this weekend. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now.
I concede.
Well fought.
I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.